Okay, welcome back. Another episode of Coach's Corner. I would like to continue the discussion for my subscribers in a couple different ways that I won't share with the public, because I think that I would get some messages and feedback that would essentially be hate mail, and I really don't want to put myself through that. That's why I removed myself from Facebook to a degree. Okay. Anyways. Following along on the first two posts, the first two vlogs there, I find it interesting. One of the solutions that's typically offered from the environmentalist, from the socialist mindset, is the wealth transfer thing. Okay, you saw that with President Obama and the climate change accords, the Paris climate change accords. Essentially what it was is a series of wealth transfers from the richest country on earth to several smaller developing countries on earth. And I find that an interesting proposition to combat climate change, because the ideal model for the green movement in America is a move to completely completely renewable energy sources, except for nuclear energy, which I've already discussed a little bit. But I find that to be a bit anti-pragmatic, if I'm being really honest here, plainly stupid, because you're trying to transfer massive amounts of money for green energy infrastructure to countries that haven't even developed a sufficient infrastructure to refine coal, which is the most abundant and one of the oldest forms of known energy extraction ability that our species has. And these countries can't refine and develop the coal that they have under their own soil, and we think that transferring this money for green energy initiatives for renewable energy sources is a good idea. I don't actually think that that's the reason that we're interested in transferring that money. I think it's simply a wealth redistribution scheme. The Obama mindset, the Obama worldview, the socialist worldview sees us as too rich comparatively to other countries, and so this is just a means to be able to justify transferring a whole lot of our society's money to other people. Okay. I'd also like to discuss briefly a really radical idea. If global warming is the end-all be-all, the detriment to society. Okay, I know that we've moved away from that term into the favorite term is climate change, because now you can use climate change as a justification for a broader spectrum of environmental weather-related events. Drought in California, climate change. Snow in North Texas, climate change. Rain in Seattle, climate change. Hurricane in the Gulf, climate change. Billions of dollars of property damage compared to the 1800s, climate change. Okay, global warming doesn't encompass enough phenomenon to be able. You can't say global warming caused the snow. You know what I mean? Okay. So, but let's take that as an example, just to kind of make a point here. The global warming thing. Okay, the Earth is getting too hot as a result of human activity. So here's something that we know from historical evidence, mostly of sampling ice cores, which I discussed briefly earlier. Volcanic activity in the past, particularly the Siberian, I forget what they're called, there's a Russian name for them, but there's a whole series of volcanic formations in Siberia that long ago, millions and millions of years ago, erupted, and it basically set off a chain reaction of volcanic eruptions. How the Earth was made, by the way, History Channel special. It's a really cool episode on this. But anyways, there was so much volcanic activity from those eruptions, the cloud coverage literally blocked the sun for periods of years, and it cooled the Earth's surface. So here's my point, okay, a radical point to be made for the environmental left here. If global warming is a known phenomenon, and this is a predictable thing for the future of our species on the planet, And it's going to become a problem where the earth gets so hot that it basically has a global impact on our species. Here's a solution, okay? We know for a fact that there is a massive caldera of lava under Glacier National Park here in America in the Midwest, and that over the course of, basically every 640,000-ish years or so, very predictable from the ice core samples, this massive caldera erupts, okay? And this caldera, when it erupts, it's a supervolcano. It has a similar effect on the global climate as the Siberian volcanic activity millions of years ago. It produces enough cloud coverage that the sun is blocked to a great enough extent that it actually cools the planet. We know that the Glacier National Park supervolcano is going to erupt at some point in the near future, because we're actually a little bit overdue on the time scale. Here's my question. If we know for a fact, settled science, that global warming is going to cause a problem in the future, why don't we set off some sort of device, explosive device, underneath Glacier National Park in the middle of the caldera or at the top of the caldera? Why don't we pop the pimple? Why not simply evacuate the Midwest and let all humans know this is what we're going to do, because global warming is going to be a problem. We're going to manufacture a cure and offset the coming warming by cooling the planet's surface, setting off this eruption intentionally to provide that cloud cover. I imagine that most leftists, most environmentalists don't want to see that happen, because probably some explanation will be given about a man-made disaster, an explosive device, doing something synthetic to the earth would be bad. But the argument's being made that global warming is going to be catastrophic. It's going to be providing extinction level events in terms of the effect of the climate on our species. Why don't we use this knowledge of global warming to justify the one-time explosion to offset the coming catastrophic event? We can evacuate the people, we can detonate the device, we can make sure that this super volcano erupts in a controlled environment. Is that too radical for leftism? I imagine it is, because I imagine that most of this belief system has a lot less to do with understanding climate science and environmental relationships between species and global activity, weather-related activity, than it does with simple human control and wealth transfers from a socialistic worldview. That's my guess. Anyways, hope you found this interesting and enjoyable. As always, have a great day.